Okay. Um, I feel like I'm going to need some confirmation. Sam, just let me know if I am actually live. I'm pretty sure I am. Good morning to you all. It's so brilliant to finally be at this stage where we can actually start this challenge after a dizzying week of promo and just getting it all out there to try and bring as many of you in as possible. I'm so happy to see so many of you. There's many old friends here. A shout out to the Young Fire parent community that's really been the foundation for me getting to this point. A Facebook group I've run for the last year and a half. So hi to all of you. Some of my current clients are here, parents I'm currently working with, and of course the VIPs. All of the people that I don't know. I mean, there's some of you, it's just so brilliant to see new names, clicking in from Facebook ads or whatever it might have been, and just seeing things, postings on Facebook. I'm really excited to meet all of you too. So yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I don't want to say adept, but I'm certainly used to this kind of format where I'm just speaking live. That's what I've done in the Young Fire community group, parent community group, which you must all join. But maybe Sam, you could put the link in the comments. That would be so good to have you in that group. It's an amazing group. And generally the way I do things is pretty freestyle. So I have notes, of course, but especially for this challenge, I really want it to be responsive to you. So thank you all so much for the answers to the questions coming in, and your brilliant lives and your shares in the group already. That's really, really helpful for me. And all the way through the week, it's going to be really important that I know where you're coming from. We are going to dive into the kind of problem areas, not on day one, not straight in. But certainly at day two, we're going to start opening up really what your specific situations are. And I really want to be speaking directly to them because, yeah, that's what we're here for. I'm here to just give myself to you completely for the week on this topic of trust. And it is a topic which means a great deal to me. It's where I've ended up in my career. You know, this is just it's the absolute cornerstone, I would say, for empowering education and also for our families and also for the future of the world. But I'll get into that in a sec. First of all, I'll just introduce myself a little bit, tell you a bit, those of you that don't know me, who I am, where I am, and how I've got here. So I'm in Somerset, and I come from a tutoring background. So I was a tutor for I was a musician for 15 years, and tutoring just went hand in hand with that. So I was writing songs and teaching in London initially. And I grew out of 10 or 15 years of music and tutoring. And then for the last 10 years or so, it's been education all the way. In some ways, the music I was creating was an attempt to educate, but that's another story for another time. But and now I work as a parent coach and still tutoring and mentoring teenagers. And along the way, I've discovered certain things, as anyone in education will do, that just seem critical to me for the whole enterprise of education and also parenting, which is very, very closely related. So I have a great excitement around grassroots social change with parents, not so much institutional change, which I think will be a lot slower. So schools, governments, I feel just most of all to put my time here with you, with people like you, and to bring us all together. I think there's a lot of us on the same page here with many, many topics. It's a rapidly changing world, not least the education system. And so, I hope that this week will be a real vehicle for all of us to come together, to get to know each other and to realize a common aim. And so those milestones that I discovered in my tutoring career are really, the first one was choice, the importance of giving choice to young people. not something we do in our schooling system. So there we go. You know, it's maybe creeping in points, but generally the system is set up where there isn't any choice. And it's been very powerful to meet young people over these last 2 decades, and increasingly in the last 10 years, and especially the last 5 years, when I knew that that was something that just had to be in place for real education and a real teacher-student relationship to work optimally and fully. Yeah, that was really exciting to start giving away as much choice as I could to the students I was working with, and also telling their parents that that was how it was going to be to work with me. They needed, the students really needed to have that buy-in where they were opting, they were volunteering, they were willing to work with me, whether I was calling myself just a tutor then or not. I had to have their buy-in, otherwise I knew I couldn't get proper results with them. You just become an extension of an institution or a system that doesn't work for many many teenage students. So that was a huge milestone, just realizing the power of choice, giving choice. And of course, all of this is geared towards just stirring things up for you as parents. It's obviously something we can do at home as well, giving as much choice as possible. The other one then was self-direction, was, you know, from that choice is then allowing young people to self-direct, wanting to see them make their own strides, take on their own leadership with their own activities, you know, to see what they decide to kind of use their time for, to give them that trusting space where, you know, in my 12-week mentorship program, there's a point, it's a holding bay for students to get to know me and for us to have a proper mentoring relationship. And then there's a question of like, what's our purpose? You know, what is our plan of action? And they can really bring anything into that space. It often is related to GCSEs. And so they might say, okay, let's work on the maths, but it could be anything. I mean, with some students, it's straight mentoring. And so they bring anything into that space. They're interested in all sorts. So yeah, self-direction really is the only way that learning really comes to life. You know, if you're doing it kind of because it has to be done, or because other people are telling you you've got to do it, or because, you know, you've been convinced in some ways that you're not going to have any future if you don't get your GCSEs, and you know, that's one very poor way of trying to motivate someone. Whereas, you know, when they're learning what they want to be learning, or when they're doing it for themselves, even within this system where they're allowed to just go, okay, what am I going to do with my GCSEs? You know, what's my personal responsibility there, to take away all the noise of the adult population, if you like, and just allow a young person, 14, 15, to realize that, yeah, most of them, when I ask them, you know, when I ask them, what do you want to get out of you? You know, it's kind of like the parents out the room, and, you know, then we get to like really get down with what we actually want to do. And, you know, I asked them, what do you actually want? And they all have ambitions for getting their GCSEs. They know, you know, and some of you listening here, you might say, well, not my kid, but, you know, bear with me. But they know that this is something that is, for right or wrong, still needed in the world today. So, you know, they don't want to come out with nothing. They don't want to fail them all. You know, they know that there's something they could get out of that process in a profound way as well. That there is learning to be had there. They do have capacity there. There is something to be had there beyond just, you know, the misery of being made to do it. So once you trust, and once you get young people on the same page with you, and this is what we'll be working on this week, is how you can really, you know, allow them to see that for themselves without it feeling like it's your agenda, or the school's agenda, or society's agenda. So yeah, that was a huge milestone, self-direction, and I believe it's the future of education, certainly where I want to put my kids. So they'll be doing a Montessori education for secondary school, which is very much child honoring, self-directed. But this is not something, you don't have to find the right system. It's something that we can empower so much from home. And the last one was just working online. Just working online for me was such a revelation, to also take young people as a mentor, to take them out of their home environment, take them out of their school environment, where we could be free to make a fresh start. And this is what I'd suggest to you as parents, is that you try and create through this week a fresh start to really hand over responsibility, and not a 2-week trial and then, you've got it all wrong, not a test, like trust, real trust, where it can be like, taking a leap this week and never looking back, and supporting them, being open to support them, allowing them to fail. Of course, at times get it wrong. They're learning. They're in this stage where they really do. They are actually, young people, in my experience, are crying out to take on responsibility, even if it looks the absolute opposite. If it looks like they just, in fact, it does look like the opposite. More often than not, it looks like they'll just do anything to avoid responsibility. But it's both is going on at the same time. And they actually, the solution to their problems lies for them and for their parents in them being able to take on responsibility, not to be shy, not to be fearful, and not to be avoidant of their responsibilities as young men, young women, young adults, to be supported by the adult population to be able to make that leap. And it is a process that takes years, so we're here to kickstart that process. And yeah, like I've said in some of the videos and the promo, I really want you to get a taste of it right now in this week. It's not just a kind of theoretical thing. So we will be pulling some levers and seeing if you want to exercise some communication devices with your teenagers, whilst you're also just having this very much as the topic for your week to infuse your whole week, and seeing how that just affects your relationships immediately anyway. So yeah, I also have two kids. I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so, I'm in the parenting role myself, not of a teenager. And I really do understand that it's different for parents of teenagers, and that I have challenges ahead. But just on the topic of trust, there were many times, for example, when I would catch myself just not trusting my children. The typical example would be when the house had gone really quiet, and I would suspect either one of my children, but especially one of them, to just be with our devices, like in some room with the iPad. With the iPad, they've got our phone or something, and then more often than not, I would find both of them or one of them, and they would just be like the picture, just like drawing together, or just like some idyllic scene. And I would catch myself just thinking, wow, I'm so paranoid, so untrusting, thinking that they're going to go to the worst, thinking that my children are just going to do, in a way, it's a projection of my fears, that they're a projection of our fears. And the more we then get onto that bandwagon and start trying to police that, or we show our distrust of them, we show our suspicion of them, even when they're not doing anything wrong, then it becomes self-fulfilling. So then that starts to become a problem, where they just don't feel trusted because we're so riddled with our own paranoia about what they might be up to. Yeah, and chocolate in the cupboard, that kind of thing, where it's just like, they've got hold of that, and usually it was funny to find out that they hadn't, and sometimes they had. Yeah, and so I've had really, the reason for offering this challenge is from having really profound results from students, especially that I've worked with in the last couple of years. So, there are some mums on this call, whether they're live with us now or going to catch up with this material later, we've shared a real journey. There has been like such a transformation from a child who just hates English, hates writing, hates reading, to someone who's reading poetry to their family. The mums just can't believe it, running up and getting their book, and that the atmosphere of learning that for me as a mentor I can give, and which as parents we can also bring, can be that powerful. When that pressure's all been removed, in many ways it makes space then for a young teenager. And this particular teenager was pretty bullish character in some ways, so it's not just who you may think it might be. This was really quite striking. And for his mum, just to see him, first of all, reading poetry to his whole family, and then secondly, recently, just reading at all. I mean, buying a book. He's bought some rugby player's autobiography, and he's reading, and that is an example of a parent who's given up in many ways on trying to press for results to get her kid writing, get her kid reading, or get, you know, whatever it might be. And then suddenly, bam, there's the space where a young person, he's now 17, can do that kind of thing. They can just, you know, and he actually wanted to read to her. He wanted to read this flanker autobiography to his mum. And again, she's just sitting there going, wow, these really are the results of trust. And so she and I have been on quite a journey there, where I've supported her to continue to trust that he will self-develop, and that these kinds of results can be, whatever kind of results can be possible. This is another element of it, is that in a way, having an expectation, something we'll get into again during the week, you know, it's more the openness. Anything can happen. What we want to do is step into trust where anything is possible for them. We don't have, you know, it's not the same thing. In fact, it's kind of the opposite, to be trusting that they will eventually kind of do what we want. That's not trusting. We're not trusting them that they will eventually come around to our way of seeing things. So, you know, we're trusting that they are going to know what is best for them to do, that they're going to find what their passions and interests are, and that they're going to be able to take them out into the world. We're trusting that they're going to take those steps themselves, and that we really don't know what we're going to see at the other end. We don't know. We can't predict. It's not our role. It's not our role as parents to presume that we know best for our children even. You know, it's not our role to project our ambitions onto them. You know, sometimes we've got to really look at our kids fresh and new every single day and think, you know, like, am I in any way hampering this child to be who they are, not who I think they are? Yeah, and many other examples, you know, simple ones. There's one student I taught, and his mum said, you know, he's going to want to smoke. This was when I was teaching face-to-face. It's about 5 years ago. Haven't done it since then. And, you know, he told me that just the way I handled that situation when he wanted to go out for a cigarette, and I just joined him, we were chatting, and, you know, the atmosphere of freedom and just adult to adult, you know, it's easier, of course, for a non-parent, but I think parents should also bring this into their relationship. You know, obviously smoking, I don't mean anything to do with that particular topic, but whatever they're pushing for, it might be to do with that, smoking, drinking, some of the other things, drugs, you know. But, you know, he was right on board with me, because I didn't bat an eyelid when he wanted to do that. And so children of all ages, we know, are constantly testing the boundaries like that, and they want to know that we've got their back. You know, they want to know that we do trust them. They want to know that we're in support of them, that we believe in them. And so when they bring up these things, you know, in a way, we're going to learn this week much more to bounce that back at them and just ask them, you know, what do you think is a good idea? Like, you know, and just leave. You know, I wasn't telling him I thought smoking was great. We did talk a bit about smoking. He wanted to talk about it. He wanted to know my opinion whilst he was smoking with me. So, you know, I'm very honest and real about it. It's not my thing. I don't think it's a great thing, but I get it, you know. So it's that kind of atmosphere that really helps a teenager to just go, okay, everything is okay, and I can really communicate openly and freely here and begin to make my own decisions. You know, like, if I'm not making it for him, or if the parent isn't making that decision for them, then great, they can go, okay, what actually is my opinion? And you as a parent can create a communication bridge where you can then participate in that decision making. You can ask them, do you want some advice? Would you like my advice? And if they say no, or if they don't want your advice, that's the end of that. Like, don't give it. So, you know, starting to get that kind of relationship where you can say, well, do you want help? Would you like my help? Or would you like to know here some of my experience, or what helped me in this circumstance? That is just so empowering for a young person. And they can say yes or no, but if they say yes, wow, then you're in. And then you can really just share your own experience, you know, share your opinion without it being like, you've got to do this, and I know, and I'm right, and that kind of dynamic, which can really come in between you. Yeah, and lots of other examples. I must keep a bit of an eye on the time, but seeing students get involved in their own passion projects. One student, I'm teaching him maths and we have a great relationship, but he's also suddenly really got into cryptocurrency, and it's an incredible vehicle for his self-direction, with all of the pitfalls, of course, around the investing and the obsession that friends of mine, contemporaries of mine have with crypto and their investments. It's just that is going on in parallel, along with his approach to GCSEs. He has found a real passion. He's really, really invested in learning more about that, looking at the markets. And this is also the result of trust. And he and his mum and I have also worked very hard on that. And, she's here in this group, which is also brilliant to have her here. And hopefully we'll hear from her later on in the week, share some of her experience there. Yeah, great. All right, so let's just do a bit of housekeeping around this group. So this group is private and completely confidential. And my mission, my wish for us through this week is that we really meet each other, that we get to know each other, that we open up to each other gradually as we want to. And the more generous you are with your experience, the more open you are in this group, the more you will see results from this week's training, and also the more you will give to everybody else in the group. So, we all really want to come to this challenge week with a wish to be vulnerable, really, to be vulnerable and open with what's going on for us, and to take that support. And I assure you that when you share something that is specific to you, which is deep for you or powerful for you, everyone else in the group is going to have some element of that experience as well, or relate to that experience. So yeah, please do use this private group. Nothing comes out of the group. We're all parents, we're all in this together. So use this group to be really open, especially also with the assignments each day, just to whatever degree you feel comfortable, but test it out. This also, in a way, is part of the week, is that trust, like you trusting yourself to just be open and honest about your experience. And in more than one ways of looking at it, trust with your child starts with trust of yourself as well. So trust of ourselves. Great. Yeah, the housekeeping bits I skipped over. Yeah, I would love to. In fact, I can't see. I'm going to have to find out ways that I can see comments during the day. I won't look at any today, but we'll figure it out for tomorrow. But maybe I can see them in the Facebook group itself. Please do comment anything that resonates. Start bringing out your own experience now as you listen to me talking, and popping little comments in there that I can look back on after the live. That will really feed the subsequent day and the rest of the week's trainings, just to hear your experience and what resonates, questions you might have. Sam is here. My lovely wife Samantha is here on tech support, so please be in touch with her if you're struggling at all with the tech. And you can be in touch with either of us also directly on Messenger if we're friends, and we'll certainly accept you as a friend if you contact us. And there are going to be some pop-up events during the week, so it's not just going to be these lives each day, which will be never more than an hour, and maybe sometimes less, depending. We're going to pop up some great events during the week, so there may just come at times where you can't make it live. That's fine. It'll all be in the group, all be recorded, but we'll hopefully do some Q&A sessions. I want to see every which way I can bring you in to the discussion, so that I can really meet your requirements and your questions and your wishes for the week directly. So yeah, we're here to build a community. Who knows what will happen from this week? I hope we will stay together in many ways, in different ways if we want to. We want to open up this topic of trust fully, and yeah, create a totally connecting, empowering, and generous space for one another. Okay, so the backdrop to our situation right now, these are just some thoughts. So today is just a day to set the foundations for the week and to look at this topic from a real high level. We will get into all the nitty-gritty, and especially in response to the comments you've already made, your challenges around trust. But yeah, I wanted to mention also something around just where we're at, you know, that in 2021, with the education system shifting so much, with future job markets shifting so much, you know, technology just coming in to the degree that it does, you know, this fantastic social change around celebrating diversity of all kinds, climate change marches, you know, where this all stimulates my thinking around trust. I mean, the world is changing. That's just the summary of it. And also GCSEs are changing, school systems are changing. So, you know, a lot of you said on your way into the group, you know, one of your biggest challenges is getting your child to do their homework or to apply themselves to their schoolwork. And that's kind of mostly where I work. Like I work right in that space with parents and teenagers, because I really get it. I really get any 14, 15-year-old who is not getting off on school, often with a great deal of natural brightness, or can be that they're, you know, they're naturally bright and interested, but the schooling system has just yeah, sent them in the other direction since they've hit the teenage years. So just some words of encouragement in some ways that I think one element coming out of this week for some of you will be to just reframe like what the priority is with the education of your child in the broadest sense. Now, no one is saying, least of all me, that you should just toss GCSEs to one side. You might be tempted and you might want to go for it. If you do, if you feel like there's another route, there are definitely now. But I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that for 95 or more percent of those of you that are here, or the population, that that's a good route, just to scrap that. But if you've got someone who's ready to become an entrepreneur now, they're totally self-directed, raring to go, and they're being held back by school, brilliant. Set them free. Now is a great time in human history where you can really do anything. I know 14, 15-year-olds who are making more money than I am, much more money. You know, they're coaches, they're entrepreneurs, they're masters of Facebook ads or whatever it is. So, you know, that there's just so untold opportunities for young people who know what they're about. And at the same time, the credibility of this system we've created, where apparently GCSEs are, you know, the be all and end all. You've got to come out with the best grades possible. Otherwise, you know, like I said before, you have no future, or you won't get a job, or all these kinds of things. You know, there's something changing there. I mean, take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. Because they are important. I'm really not belittling the importance of them. And most of all, to me, what's important is what's really going on when a young person steps up to their GCSEs like that, engages fully with their GCSEs. The growth in inner self-confidence, in awareness of what they truly love, the natural maturity, in taking on responsibility and being able to, for example, sit down and devise a revision schedule for a couple of weeks, or just to keep up with their homework day to day. These are all things that I don't want any young person to miss out on. So I want them to get those real results, the real gold from GCSEs. And of course, the cherry on the top then are the grades, which are needed. They're needed to progress into the next system, the next stage, the next college, university, whatever. And, you know, maybe they will be in this kind of old, slightly old way, sitting across the desk from someone and needing to show their GCSE results. You know, one thing also to say about that is that once they've done GCSEs, if they then do really well at A-levels, no one's even going to care about their GCSEs, you know, so unless they specifically need the maths GCSE to go on to their further education or whatever, basically GCSEs get buried by A-levels, and then A-levels get buried by your degree if you go into a degree. So, but the main thing I wanted to say was just about the changes in the world. In a way, there's no higher currency than a young person who knows what they're about and who's developed real skills for this future job market. And the future job market is that employers are not mad for GCSEs or for the paperwork of any academic qualifications, so much now as they were. They want the 21st century skills, and the 21st century skills, as predicted by, as more or less agreed by every study I've ever seen at least, are, and there's a whole list of them, but the ones that are most pertinent for us here are collaboration, teamwork, problem solving, creativity. So the rote learning, of course, you'll have all known this and heard this 100 times before, but the rote learning, grade attaining, hoop jumping kind of education it's just a thing it should be a thing of the past already. And so we can also just look at these problems, the conflict we're having with our young people, and just consider the worth of, like, what is the worth of this struggle? Like, if I've seen some people even coming into the group saying, really motivated here and then not at all motivated for GCSEs. Well, I would put the emphasis there, not to overlook the GCSEs, but like go with the current passions, like what are they developing, and hand over responsibility for the GCSEs so that they, can see what they want to achieve there as well. But I see both warming up at the same time. If it's just all about GCSEs and you've got a demotivated teenager, then that's a very hard push for you and for them. But I will help you also with that push in this week. So but it's just something to say about how the world is changing, and we really as parents don't have to be so beholden. One other shift is from 8 GCSEs or 10 GCSEs to maybe 5. I think that's a great route for lots of young people. It's just to ditch the subjects that they really don't care about and get 5. Many of the next colleges or sixth forms or whatever they're going on to only want 5, maybe not even 5. And so you really don't have to still hang on to this old way of getting the results for your child. If that resonates with you, great. We have all kinds of people here. Might be you're going for 2 GCSEs. Again, I think that's awesome. If they're 2 GCSEs that your kid's really into and you're home educating, that's incredible. So everyone's learning journey can look very different. And in this day and age, if you have substance as a young person to whatever you're developing yourself in or out of school, that is what future employers are going to be looking at. They're going to be looking to see that you have genuinely enjoyed your learning and you've got real substance behind it. You know what you're about, you know what you love, and you're ready to offer it to them. So it's also stitching together what that career is and what your loves and interests are, and arriving in that place with those skills, not just with academic qualifications, but with those skills and ready to go. So yeah, there's another backdrop to all of this, which is in a way panning slightly even further back, is to do with our lack of trust of ourselves and just, the context in culture. This is a question that I think is really worth still bringing up to this group, and it might come back up later on in the week and it might not. But, we do generally have a culture of distrust in ourselves, and when we look at the world religions, generally there's a lot of sense of making ourselves bad and wrong and not being able to trust ourselves as adults, never mind being able to trust our children. So that is a problem. And you can look at culture and writing and music and see all kinds of reflections of this. One of the top GCSE books is Lord of the Flies, and Lord of the Flies is like a story that you probably all know, where it's a story of humanity not being able to trust itself. As soon as you're left to your own devices and not controlled, much like in the same way that we are controlling education and trying to control the development of our young people, then it all goes to pieces. Everyone eats each other or kills each other, whatever it is. So, we do have this lack of trust deep in our culture and in our society from historically. So this is one of the leaps that I really think we need to see in the world. And in terms of climate change, which I mentioned briefly, trust is really trusting our young people to develop themselves, to really explore their own unique diversity, strengths, gifts, and talents and interests, to have them self-direct into whichever direction they want to go in, really is, in my opinion, going to be the solution to these problems, which at the moment the adult population cannot solve. So we have created, through our systems to date, a world that is in pieces. So, you know, trusting our young people and enabling them to self-direct, trusting that, enabling them to trust themselves to just explore the avenues they want to explore, is, I think, a key piece in the puzzle of solving very complex world issues, which are just so pressing right now. And the parents' role, okay, so the parents' role in this is primary. So what's amazing, that's why I'm so excited about the grassroots change that we can affect. As parents, we really hold a lot of the power to influence, you know, and so the space we can hold this week of stepping into trust, if it's something that you've really can bring to bear in your family, then wow, how game-changing that is, you know, for the development of your child. You know, that the home is really the primary education. So, you know, whilst it may not be going well in many ways now for some of you that are here, it is such an opportunity for you to turn that around. And trust is such an elegant and, in a way, simple, it's very powerful. It can be done, you know, kind of overnight and built on from there. But you know, you can start to open up these communication channels with your child to empower trust in them this week. So as parents, we just have such a role to play, however distant our child might seem from us. You know, if we're struggling with our child and they're being even like quite abusive to us, you know, we're such a range of people in this group, everyone's having different experiences. Then, you know, this week I really hope can give you some tools where you can start to just release the tension and the pressures in your family, in your families, and to start releasing some of that conflict and just bringing your children back into your heart and your home in that kind of way. So yeah, our education systems, yeah, not founded on trust. So, you know, I don't want to hammer home too much of a kind of negative spin on the circumstances that we're all dealing with here. But, you know, we really, again, as parents, if we can bring this trust to our children, then whatever's happening at school, it doesn't really touch them. But, you know, our schooling systems are set up on coercion. They're set up on basically making children do a load of things that they haven't been really asked to do. There's a strong punishment system there also, and pressures for them to conform generally with the school system. So okay, what I wanted to do here now before I get lost in is to read to you a letter. Let me see if I can find it. I wanted to read a letter of a parent. Parent sent me this letter. She's not actually in the challenge, but here we go. She wrote to me just on the back of some of the marketing for the challenge and shared her experience with me. And I'm just going to read the letter just literally as it is. So she said, "Hi, I just wanted to say what a brilliant idea I think this is, and how glad I am that someone, you, is out there promoting this message about the importance of connecting with and trusting our teens. My 14-year-old daughter has this September gone back to school into year 10 after 5 years being unschooled. Prior to removing her from school, our relationship was in a bad place with lots of confrontations and battles. The subsequent years spent simply spending time together, allowing her to explore her interests and joining her in them, has transformed our relationship. We are closer now than ever, and I'm so very proud of the young woman she's becoming. When she told me she wanted to return to school, I have to admit that I had my misgivings. We agreed to give it a try, and together we researched local schools, applied for places, and made a choice of which we felt was the best fit. She is loving school. She loves wearing uniform, the structure, being surrounded by other kids her age, even the homework. And she's really impressed me with how organized she's been. She planned out a very ambitious schedule, but it seems to be working for her. She gets up at 6 a.m., goes for a run, or did when it was light enough, does homework, makes her lunch, gets her bags ready, has breakfast, and is ready to go. All with almost no help from me, apart from an occasional reminder that eating breakfast is more important than getting her hair perfect, or occasional help with her packed lunch. She's doing extra work above and beyond what is expected, and is doing homework as soon as it's set. Despite doing no curriculum for the last 5 years, apart from choosing to work through the 5 years of maths curriculum she'd missed in the 6 months before she went back, she's picked up all the subjects with no problem. I am astounded. I miss being able to spend so much time together, but I love how she comes home and wants to share all the details of her day with me over a cuppa and biscuits. I think it really shows what can happen when you focus on connection and trust and support. She knows I'm here rooting for her and ready to offer help if or when it's needed. And she's spreading her wings and testing them out. And I'm confident that together we can work out any challenges that come her way. I wish this was a relationship that more parents could have with their teens. I love that you're doing your bit towards that goal, and I hope your challenge week goes really well. Yeah, so, that I just wanted to read that in this moment of, it's a very powerful letter of someone else's experience in just being able to really, really trust their child's development and seeing then what the result is of that. You can see that's a checklist of things that most parents I meet, they cannot conceive that could ever happen, that their kid would be doing all of those different things. And as I'm reading it, I know there are many of you in this group that are thinking, wow, I am so far from that. But that's partly why I read it to you. It's just because that particular mum's journey has produced those results. So we need to look at how powerful this change can be, and that those effects, they take place over years. So all right. Without trust, in some ways, the answer to the question, why trust, is really, in some ways, I don't see that there's any alternative. For parents of teenagers, when we don't trust and when we don't have the communication channels with our children, we know what the result is. You're all here, I imagine, because it has created tension and family conflict and really disempowerment for everybody. So just see, remind myself. Yeah, so there really is no other option, basically. There's someone, I heard a quote earlier on this week from someone whose opinion I very much rate. And they said, you can literally never control another human being. So if we are in some ways trying to control, we have expectations. This was one of the other things I mentioned, dropping our expectations. It's not about trying to get them to do what we want. It's about them discovering what they want to do. And we have to, as parents, give them that platform where they can make their own way. We can allow them to step into a space where they can start making their own decisions. We can start to hand over the opportunity for them of what they want to do with their lives, what they want to make with their lives. We can start to empower their own good judgment. There is nothing that is going to keep our kids safe when they're not with us. We're not going to be able to do that other than their own good judgment. So the real lessons in teenagehood and in education are these lessons of actually learning self-leadership, learning how to operate your life yourself, not with a parent or with a teacher or with anybody else making you do it or even helping you do it, allowing them to go out there and do that themselves, to get to know themselves. And with all of these different topics that have come in through the group as well, they're going to need to find out through their own experience. So it's learning through experience, learning through making mistakes. And so as parents, what we need to do when they're teenage is allow them to go forward in that way, and including with GCSEs. With GCSEs, what I would suggest is a beginning of communication with them about that. To open it up, you have to, first of all, prove to them that you are open about the future. Prove to them that there is no, I think they call it a sword of Damocles hanging over their heads, that there is no thing they have to do, otherwise you're going to deeply disapprove of them, or their life's going to be over, or some sort of great big doom and gloom scenario. That's one step to take forward with them, is to just communicate with them so that they can start to discuss with you what it is they actually want, like I do with the one-to-ones. It's asking them what they want. And as a parent, if you can open up that discussion and you can start to dispel the conflict, dispel the tensions, and dispel the push and pull around certain boundaries or certain requirements you may have, turn it into a conversation instead. You want to actually discuss with them and find out from them in a place of safety, so they know they're not going to be judged for it, what their actual plan is. What is their plan? If it's not to get any GCSEs or not to do any work, and then you can just discuss that gradually through the course of year 10, year 9, year 10. What the way we're heading, it's not, if there isn't any work done, then you will be getting like 4s and 5s, and how's that going to be for you? Where is it that you want to go next? So also some patience in this. These year 9, year 10, the patience is really needed, because I've seen so many students come year 11 where, they suddenly know what position they're in. They know that they have a duty, they have a responsibility there to themselves, and they hopefully have a future plan, or they should start to think what their future plan is. That they need to meet that. They need to meet that with their studies. So it's opening up that communication with them and helping them to actually start making their own decisions, taking on responsibility for their own life. Okay, so I think I'm just going to leave it there for today. To me, it's great just to have got going. I hope that's been inspiring or useful or stimulating for you. It's just day one, and I really, really want to respond to what you have to say from today. So my call to actions for you, or the assignments for today, would be, please do, if you haven't already gone live, go live in the group and share what's resonated for you from today. Share what you've learned from today or what's been useful. And also, if there are other friends that you think you might want to join in with this challenge week, who really also could do with benefiting on a deep dive into the subject of trusting your teens to empower their self-direction and their learning in general, bring them into the group. It's not too late. We're going to keep the invitation open until midnight tonight. And so I feel like we could really double our numbers, bring in some more people so that we have everyone possible to benefit from this week. And so, yeah, today, this is the checklist of assignments. Please do go live and share what's resonated from today, or you can write a comment if that's more comfortable for you. But going live is such a great way of us getting to know each other. Share with your friends. Bring in anybody else. We'll put the link in below this live. Bring in anybody else who you think is going to really like this week and benefit from it. And also, one action for tonight is to reflect on your personal perceived obstacles to trust. Put them also in the group. Any sort of comments in the group will really be useful for me to look at after this. Put in the obstacles you have to trust and where it is, the conversations, the circumstances, the situations where you find it really hard to trust your teen. Hope it's been great today. Thanks so much for being with the live. Looking forward to seeing all your lives and your comments in the group later on today. And so excited to get into the problem areas in some ways tomorrow, and to look at the specifics and see how we can start speaking to them. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow.